Fahrenheit 451 is a novel that depicts how technology separates us from reality. In the dystopian society depicted in this novel, the government suppresses intellectual freedom by banning books and controlling information. Guy Montag's job as a fireman is to burn books. His meeting with Clarice ignites an insurgent in him, which motivates him to steal and read books, which is against the law. Bradbury emphasizes how censorship affects society. Society becomes isolated, empty, and selfish. It limits people's critical thinking and ability to form their own thoughts. Instead of people reading books and developing their own opinions, people start to seek entertainment and information through technology, thus allowing it to think for them.
No.
If you don't want a house built, hide the nails in wood. If you don't want a man unhappy politically, don't give him two sides to a question to worry him. Give him one. Better yet, give him none. And colored people don't like Little Black Sambo. Burn it. White people don't feel good about Uncle Tom's Cabin. Burn it. Someone's writing a book on tobacco and cancer of the lungs. The cigarette people are weeping. Burn the book. Captain Betty says, burning books and limiting information will bring peace for everyone and everyone will be happy. This censored thought is essentially saying that if you don't give people something to worry about and think about, everyone will be happy. Even though this thought has a potential to be correct, it simply cannot be true for the human race because people are designed to think, and because of our biology, we are designed to question and advance. Limiting the option for people to think for themselves leads to a whole bunch of depressed slugs. Even seen in the pandemic from COVID in 2020, it is abundantly obvious that people require outside human interaction. Because almost everyone went insane over that period of time, with no one but the people they live with and staring at screens all day for work and school. Even hangouts through calls became excessive, and many people got so stuck in their compressed walls of their home, and the internet just kept sucking them in to take up their free time, to the point where they didn't even go outside to get fresh air. And you don't need to be a rocket scientist to know that. The closest people have gotten to this state of sluggishness from technology is the lockdown and the overall COVID period, when we were forced to stay apart and not have physical contact with people, which I'm sure, as many people have noticed, is very important. What Captain Betty says is that in their society, people are not allowed to decide between A and B. In fact, they don't even have the options of A and B, because it, quote, overcomplicates things.
There are so many different ways to access the internet, which makes it easy to fall into a rabbit hole for hours on end. The screen chime dramatically increased when technology started to boom. With books, you are consuming information by using your brain and thoughts. Although technology has made communication incredibly fast and efficient, it comes at a cost where we become more and more disconnected from real connections and interactions.
You read Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury?
No.
I have.
How often do you read?
Not often. Every other day.
Probably every day or so. I've been reading Worm. It's been pretty good.
Okay.
Do you like reading?
Not as much. Yeah.
What is your screen time?
About 10 hours, work and just personal time.
It should be about 5 hours.
Estimated screen time. Well, right now, the book that I've been reading is a online book.
Uh-huh.
So it's been pretty high, probably around like 5 hours.
How do you believe reading and spending time in the real world versus technology and social media affect creativity and brain function?
Reading really gives like a whole other world that you can like experience and live in, and that makes people a lot more creative.
I do think being in real life makes you use your brain more. I mean, not everything's accessible, so you have to really think about it more. And
Mm-hmm.
reading definitely helps comprehension skills, just like reading in general. Like, I've learned how to like spell and stuff by reading. Like, that's how I learned how to read and write in English.
Mm-hmm.
But I think social media, it's like so accessible now that it just makes you use your brain less, or like
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes, it had taken away interest in talking to humans, which affects our social life.
How has the rapid increase in society's holding of smartphones affected our ability to present in the moment?
It affects by being distracted. Yeah, simply just being distracted. Yeah.
Well, just from experience, you know, when you're doing stuff presently, like you always see people on their phones. I feel like it's like an addiction at some point to where you can't let go of it, because like people have done research on this where like, you know, the whatever sudden brainwaves are just makes you like want to read it. So I think it like does take people away from the moment because they're too busy doing stuff on their phone compared to what they could be doing in real life.
A lot of people really just kind of they would rather be on their phones than be invested in conversations and experiencing people, like people with plants. And so,
Do you think the world we live in is censored?
Yeah, I do think that.
Okay.
we do. There's a lot of just censoring and not people being. I mean, while social media lets it so that way people can voice their opinions for like the entire world, a lot of that does get censored. But that gets censored, and a lot of people, I guess, aren't able to handle some truths about the world.
In what ways do social media platforms contribute to the sense of disconnection of reality?
Some people use their phone for comfort. I don't know. Maybe music or I don't know, videos. So it disconnects them from the talking to somebody about how they feel. They go into media to that. It helps them feel better, or they just turn to that.
It makes a lot of unrealistic expectations for the world, such as all these influencers that have like they're either like really good looking or they have tons of money, and it just doesn't. A lot of people will compare themselves to that when they're living completely different lives.
I do think that to a point when you're on social media so much, like you don't like realize how much time is flying by or what's going on around you. Like from like my own personal thing, like I will sometimes be on my phone and then I won't realize what's going on around me, what I'm doing, or just anything else, I guess. And so yeah, I do think it like disconnects us like that.
Okay.
What ethical consideration arise when technology replaces face-to-face communication?
I think it does like get in the way of how people talk to each other, like just like understanding what they're saying and like comprehending and like knowing that someone's listening to you. Like when they look away or when they're not looking at you, it's like, oh, you don't care about what you're listening to. So I think it gets in the way of like how people feel and like view stuff. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
A lot of people definitely get worse at communicating, and I've definitely seen that in the last few years, that especially with COVID, people didn't get as much face-to-face time, and so their communication skills definitely took a nosedive.
How does the constant connectivity through communicative apps impact our interactions with the real world?
I think it makes it so that way people take a lot of face-to-face conversations for granted
Mm-hmm.
because they're able to just communicate so often, and it makes it so that way they're less impactful.
Mm, I do think it kind of
That's fine.
impacts like the amount of times people hang out with each other. Like instead of going out to go play games or just going to each other's houses, it's easier to just call people. And I think it also makes it, not only is it a bad thing, but it's an easier thing because then it's more easier to connect with people and talk to.
How has technology changed the way we communicate?
I mean, like before, we used to write letters, we used to have to send emails more formally, but now it's cheaper, definitely, and like it's easier to do it. Like I could call people daily instead of having to wait for like a letter to arrive or someone to come up to me personally. And that's
As I said earlier, it really just makes it so that way people take it for granted, and we only have a limited amount of time in this world. So why would we try to have like subpar communications with people when we can be face to face? Well, a lot of it now is just based off of reading words off of like a text, and that can't convey emotion as effectively as spoken word does.
It had changed by communicating less because with technology we're able to shorten down things or use short words instead of being able to explain yourself sometimes.
What role does technology play in modern education?
Helps the students and teachers maybe present or understand more easier in an easier concept.
It definitely plays a big role, especially with like Google Classroom and stuff. And I think honestly, it's definitely fitting for the like education sense because we're able to do so much research more effectively and efficiently. And even like you don't have, when you have to fix something in a Google Doc, you don't have to erase and then rewrite. So I think that's one of the places where we need a lot.
Can you repeat that?
What role does technology play in modern education?
I think it makes education more accessible for people all around the world, and it makes it easier for people to learn stuff and learn new things without having to have a physical in-person teacher, or just if they have less resources, then it makes it easier to achieve things.
Yes. Thank you for your interview.
No problem.